Hey everyone, this is Danielle, also known as Gently Smiling Jaws, and welcome to my Flosstube. I am a little out of practice since I have now switched to monthly videos, but I think I have gathered everything together and have my notes, so we'll see how it goes. I will start off with, I'm going to go ahead and mention it at the beginning of my video because it didn't seem to matter on the last one, that if you are interested in donating eSIMs to folks in Gaza, in Palestine, I will have information down in my description like I always do. And I did see that it looks like they have switched from Gmail to Proton Mail. So if you have donated eSIMs to them in the past, be aware that they are using a new email address. I think they were having issues with Google, and so they have switched to Proton Mail. So that info will all be down in the description below. So let's start off with tea. I will show my mug, which I don't think I've used for a while. I got this mug years ago, and I wish I knew the name of the artist. There is a signature on the bottom, but I can't make it out, and I purchased this at a fair years ago, and so I wish I knew who the artist was, because I would check out more of their work. The tea that I am drinking today is from one of the ones from Cliche Teas. I had mentioned them in the past because they were at the Northwest Tea Festival this year, and I tried some of their teas, ended up not purchasing anything because there was other stuff I was purchasing and I was trying not to spend a lot of money. However, recently they had a sale where it was a buy 3 get 1 free, and so since they have kind of 4 tea assortments, you could get all 4 for the price of 3. So I went ahead and placed my order, so I now have all 4 of the kind of like a variety packs of their teas. There are certain of their teas that you can get in, there's like a pouch of like, I think it's 20 or so tea bags of just that tea, but they don't have all of their flavors available that way yet, just some of them. So the one that I'm trying today, and I have actually not taken a sip of it yet, is called Show Don't Tell, and let me read the description on the back here. This is one of their caffeine-free ones. It contains rose hips, chamomile, lemon verbena, orange peel, and elderflower. So let me take a sip here. That one is pretty tasty. I will continue to drink this as the video goes on and see how it goes. I have tried 2 others there so far. The first one I tried was called Rough Draft, and that contained black tea, coconut, tartary, buckwheat, cacao, and vanilla bean, and 1,667 words, which is a chai, which contains black tea, crystallized ginger, cinnamon, cardamom, and vanilla bean. And of these 2, I liked this one. This was one where I would consider getting an entire bag of it if I was ready to purchase more tea from them. This one wasn't bad. It wasn't one that I think I would buy just on its own. It seemed like one where if you like to add milk to tea, that probably adding it to this one would be a good thing. And I don't typically add stuff to my tea, so occasionally I do, but it's pretty rare, and I actually didn't have any milk on hand to give that a try. But these, actually, I think all of these are from the assortment for their writers assortment. So I'll show their package. This is their for writers only, and actually I thought it was pretty, the colors that they've chosen, because there's a number of flavors and you get 2 of each. I thought that was a nice color assortment they had on their packaging. And so their sort of whole thing is, well, we go where it says, I'm not going to focus on books and tea. That's so cliche. So that is kind of their whole thing. So they have each kind of assortment, like this is their writer's one. So it has the 1,667 words, which not something I have participated in myself, but I think that's a reference to NaNoWriMo, where if you're trying to meet the word goal, that's how many words you would have to do a day. But though I am not a writer, I did see that there was a whole blow up thing this year with the NaNoWriMo folks supporting the use of AI, or they had some kind of AI based company as one of their sponsors or something, and so it sounded like there was a bunch of fallout from that, and people who were not going to participate or were going to do kind of their own thing. But that's kind of my limited knowledge. But that's, I think, what that name is based off of. And there's Kill Your Darlings, Maid and Butler, Rough Draft, Show Don't Tell, which is the one I'm drinking now, and Write Drunk, Edit Sober. Then there is also, this is the romance collection, which is not really a genre that I read, but I wanted to try all their tea, and of course it was the buy 3 get 1 free. So this one has Enemies to Lovers, Grumpy Sunshine, Meet Cute, Morally Gray, One Bed, and Slow Burn. Let's see what the colors look like in this one. And there is the fantasy set, which has Dragonfire, Feathers and Fangs, Dark versus Light, Magical Powers, Potion or Poison, and Tavern Brew. I'll open up this one as well. See the colors in there. And then there's one last box. Which is the archetypes. And ones in here are Antihero, Coming of Age, Found Family, Lost Soul, Rags to Riches, and Star-Crossed. This too. See, there's the colors in there. And I think this company is relatively new. I think they're based out of Alaska. And I think that's part of the reason why not all of their teas are available on their own. How, if you get the kind of assortments, that's how you can kind of get all their teas, but then they have a selection that are available if you want just one single flavor. Take another sip here. Okay, so let's go through my cross stitching. Since it's been a while since I've done a video, I have more to show. So the first thing I have to show is actually a finish. I have not ironed it or figured out how I'm going to fully finish it yet. But this is one of the Biscornu patterns from, let's see where I can get this so that my lighting is this, right? This is one of the 8 Biscornu patterns from Modern Folk Embroideries 8 Biscornu. And this, and I had been on the fence about doing kind of the border around the edge, and I ended up doing it. So I had to do a total of 770 stitches to finish it, but it's all done now. Not sure exactly what I'm going to do with it, but it was nice to get this one finished because I had had this one kind of as a whip for quite a while. So it was good. It was good to get a finish because I don't finish things all that often. So this was a win. Let me set that down there. Next up, and I do have things in project bags this time, so there's going to be some zipping sounds as I go through that. So apologies to those of you who don't like that noise. This is my Ink Circles Reflections on a Grecian Urn, which also has been in the works for quite a while. I picked this back up again. It is on a 32 count. I think it's Muddy Puddles from Bestitch Me. So this is a count that I don't use as much anymore. 2 strands over 2. The black is DMC 310, and the where I have the Q-snap now, there's an octopus and scorpions up there, which are in one color of variegated silk from the Thread Gatherer, the Silken Colors one, and this is another Silken Colors color. Let me see. Get that. Sorry for the shadows again. The trying to figure out the lighting has been an ongoing struggle. And so I put into this 1,662 stitches because I wanted to get it to the 50% point. So it is now at 50.24%. So that is where it's at now. I am happy with how it's coming along. Hopefully over the next year I can make a push and finally get this one done, since obviously it's been hanging out for a while. So that is where that one is at. And I think the ones you can't see up here, but you can see in other videos, I think that Silken Colors is like Autumn Twilight. I don't remember the name for sure. I think this is, it's something like, was it Black Cats and Pumpkins? It has a Halloween-y themed name, and that's what I'm using on those critters there. And the Modern Folk Embroidery one I showed, that is also done in Silken Colors. So that is where that one is. Happy. I have these older projects, you know, that I like them. I just have to remember to bring them out. Oh, here we go. I can actually look at the thing. Yes, Pumpkins and Black Cats is that Silken Colors one, and I don't have the tag handy on the other one, but I think it's like Autumn Twilight. But these older whips, I just have to remember to keep bringing them out and putting some time into them because I like them, but of course there's always the new shiny stuff that grabs your attention, and yeah. Okay. As far as other older projects, I brought out Modern Folk Embroidery Julbocken, and this, I don't know that I'm going to get it finished this year. I don't remember for certain the fabric, but I do know that the floss is another Silken Colors in the reds. And I put in 1,345 stitches, and let me do that so you can see that there, and it is now at 70.75%. There's still, I think, about 2,000 stitches to do in the section that's down beneath the goat, but I figured, you know, pushing through and finishing the goat and that frame around there was kind of a good point to, you know, kind of push through and get to. So making some progress there. the other thing that I'll try to remember to put down in the description a link to the one Christmas the big one in, I forget which, I'm probably going to pronounce it really wrong, like Galva or something in Sweden, where they do the big goat every year, and then they have a live stream of it with like Christmas music playing. And I haven't been watching it a lot, but I'll go in and check in on it, because the question every year is, will the goat survive? Because even though they've got like a fence and obviously it's on, camera and everything, people will try and get in there and, burn it down. Things I think last year nobody did anything to it, but something about the straw that they used, whatever material they used to build it, I think had more of it was stuff that birds wanted. So even though no person did anything to it, the birds kept coming down to it and picking parts of it off. So over time it got kind of partially destroyed just from the birds. But I'll put a link so you can go and check that out. But I am happy with how this is so far. I just don't think I'm going to be able to push through and finish it before the end of the year. I am filming this on the 22nd of December. I am hoping to get this edited and have it put up next weekend, which will be the weekend between Christmas and New Year's. So that is where this one is at, and I'm just, even though it's taken me quite a while to do this, I really like the combo of the fabric and the floss on this, and I will be very happy once it's complete. Oh, next I have something that is not only a finish, but it is a fully finish, which really doesn't happen very often. Okay. So I think it was when I did it was probably the whip parade that I did at the very beginning of 2024, where I had I almost had this piece done, and I just had a little bit to, and it turned out I only had 184 stitches left to do on it, so not that much, but I put it off for nearly a year before I got around to it, and I think I know why. But this is the final product. It is the Too Many Legs Biscornu, designed by Mojo Stitches. So there is the top. These I've got some just pins sitting in there. So that is the top of it with the spiders. The back there's a spider web, and there's kind of designs at each corner. So I think the reason why I put off finishing it for so long is that you'll see on the bottom there that there's a lot of space on this backside, because the backside is what I had, what I needed to finish. And the parts I needed to finish were some of these kind of corner designs. But you'll see there's a lot of space, so you don't have a lot to kind of work from as far as, counting from one motif to another. And I think that was part of the reason that I put it off, was just the having to count that many stitches over and being worried about getting the count wrong. And I did kind of mess up in some places, but I was fine with it. So, but I got it done, and I managed to finish it. There are things that I would kind of change about how I finished it, but it's done. I got off at some point, and I think it because I was using black floss at the edge to do the back stitching and then the stitching everything together. So on some corners you'll see that that kind of design matches right up with the corner, and there's some that are good, and then at some point it kind of got off a little, and so it's kind of no longer right at the corner, but that's no big deal. What I stuffed it with was, well, actually I did put interfacing on each side, and then I stuffed it with rice hulls, which I had on hand from when I made tamari years ago. I was kind of learning to make tamari. I had taken kind of some online class stuff, and I had bought some rice hulls to fill the tamari with, and I still had those on hand, because even though just like with I mentioned with things in other videos, I may get stuff for various hobbies and then I work on them and then I don't do anything with them for a while, but I still keep the stuff, because even though I haven't made a tamari in years, those rice hulls came in handy, and who knows, maybe I will make tamari in the future. But I think I would have stuffed this fuller than I did. But I think when I got to the point, I didn't start adding in the filling. I think I stitched it a little more closed than would have been ideal before I started to put the filling in. But, things we learn to improve upon for next time. And on this, I just stitched down to the bottom to get the indent. I didn't have any button or anything to put in there. But, I guess if you had a little button or something that was shaped like a fly, I know there's, the little kind of fly that's part of the design, but if you had something there, you could like omit that and stick that as the button in the middle. But that is my first fully finished thing in a very long time, and my first Biscornu. So I felt like that was an accomplishment, and one that was a long time coming, and I was glad to get this whip off my list. And I am sorry that I procrastinated for so long when I had less than 200 stitches to do to finish this thing. And the actual finishing wasn't that bad. It was a process to go through, but glad to have that done. So I've just got that sitting back there for now. Or I should say, as I'm looking at my notes, it was 184 cross stitches that I had to do to finish it, but there was also all the back stitching around the edge of each piece that I needed to do to finish it. So it was a little more than that, but still not that bad. Next up, this is the Christmas dinosaur theme bag, which had held the I think this is the bag I was using for the Too Many Legs previously. But I did put in on Reflections of Paris a grand total of 85 stitches. So, here, let's get these threads out of the way. So not much progress. I had hoped to kind of have this one done this year, but obviously I was motivated to get to the halfway point and then have sort of, petered out. So I will need to pick this one back up again, make more progress. As I've said in previous videos, I intend for this to be a gift, but it's not for any occasion. So there is no timeline, no rush to get it done, so it will just be done on its own time and then go to where it's going. This fabric is the same fabric that I used for the 8 Biscornu pattern that I showed. And it is a 40 count R&R Reproductions, a blackberry or something. I know I've mentioned it in previous videos, but it is a 40 count fabric, and that is that. So just a little progress, but hey, it's still progress. So tuck that back away, and the flosses that I'm using are silks from Mo's Sale Silks. I got the spools off of Etsy. I think it's a ruby it's an off-white, and then I forget the name of the blue color, but I'm really liking how those are stitching up, and I am liking this project. I just need to spend more time on it. All right. Next up is Dark Golden Delicious, which is one that I haven't touched for quite some time. And I should say Dark Golden Delicious by the Artsy Housewife. Let me take care of a runaway spool, which belongs back in there. I am using the silks from Vicki Clayton for this instead of the called for colors. This is my first time using the Vicki Clayton silks, and I am quite happy with them. So this is, I think, a 36 count Bestitch Me fabric. Is it, oh, what's the name of it? I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's a Bestitch Me fabric. It's 36 count. It's one that when I had bought fabric from Bestitch Me, I was buying from the ready to ship ones, and so this color had not had any left in 40 count, but there was 36 count, so that's what I went with. So I had wanted to use 40 count. I had a different piece of fabric, like a Picture This Plus or something, that was a smaller piece of fabric, and at first I had thought that was the one I was going to use, but once I checked the silk colors against these two fabrics, this was the winner. So that's what I went with. So previously I had just had like a portion of this, kind of what do I want to call that shape, like the crenellation or something. I had a portion of that done, and so I put in 413 stitches on this. So obviously a long ways to go, but it was nice to pull this out again. Here, let's do that and kind of get, there we go, and get more stitching in on this. And we'll bring it up, even though it will be kind of in the dark. You can see the stitching there. Yeah, so obviously plenty more to do, but it was nice to see a little progress on this at least. Put this away. As I am putting this away, the next piece that I worked on is a new start, and it is, let me set that down so I can stop the tag jangling. This is the Put a Bird on It sal that I started on the 15th. And I made it to the first Zoom with EJ and Shelia of the Sunshine Stitchers. And EJ is hosting this. I did not participate in the one that started last December, the 1 Dozen Quakers. I'm trying to remember when I first heard about it, but I had enough stuff going on that I wasn't ready to dive into that. But I wanted to Put a Bird on It. So this is where I am at. The fabric is I think this is an 18 count Aida from Banana Oil. I got this sometime earlier this year, I had just loved the fabric, wasn't sure what I was going to do with it, and I had showed in my previous video that I was trying to decide between this and another banana oil fabric for this project, and I ended up going with this because it was the higher count and I just love the colors. So I am letting the fabric be the star, and I am doing all the stitching in DMC Blanc. And where I'm at the point where I've done kind of just about the upper left section. EJ has kind of marked off, divided it into 12 sections, and I was going to say I may do a little more before next month, but I think I have enough stuff that I might not touch this again until January. I'm, kind of rough. I think I went down maybe a tiny bit further on there and went over a little bit because I wanted to get the bird done, and I think there's maybe like a part of a letter that's in that section, but I think that this is good enough. So maybe I'll touch it before January, maybe I won't. And I am actually stitching this 2 strands over kind of one on this Ada, and let me bring this up here. Oops, as I drop that. So up here is where I did a little test. Normally I would have done just 1 strand, but I wanted to see, so I did 1 strand and then 2 strand, and I decided I liked the look of 2 strands better. So that surprised me. I am very glad I did the little test because I like how this looks with the 2 strands, and I am happy to be spending kind of the next year working on this month by month. And I think the amount of stitches each month should hopefully be manageable. I think I'm sure I'll fall behind at some point, but hopefully I can, finish up by next December. So yeah, and so there was the day that the sale started, there was a morning and an evening Zoom hosted by EJ, and I made it to the morning one. I sort of thought that maybe I would try to make it to the evening one as well, but I was stitching. I ended up taking a nap, and I ended up falling asleep during the start time of that over here in my time zone on the West Coast. So I did not make it to both, which was probably kind of an ambitious thing for me to try and do anyway. But happy to be started on this and excited to see how this progresses over the year. And yeah, this is I don't know if I said it or not, the pattern is Put a Bird on It from Modern Folk Embroidery. So obviously I've got a lot of Modern Folk Embroidery in here. And that is where this one is. After I put this back, my next piece is a start that we'll see what happens with it. I had an idea. I made a start. I'm not entirely happy with it. I don't know whether I'm going to frog it and try something else, or try a different fabric floss combo, or exactly what I'm going to do. It's up in the air. So this is, let me not lose my needle. This fabric is, I'm trying to remember if it's like a Picture This Plus or something. It's a 32 count. I think the name of the fabric is DaVinci. It's opalescent. Let me bring it up here to hopefully maybe just see. I don't know if that comes across or not, but it is an opalescent fabric. What my plan was, the Ink Circles has all the, has various, mandalas, including some very small ones. So I thought, oh, it would be nice to have to do some smalls, but maybe put them together into a larger piece. So I was going to do a border and do 6 ink circles ones. And this variegated one that I'm using for the border is a Silks for You. I don't remember the PR number off the top of my head. And then what I was going to use for the kind of pieces, the pieces themselves, was this was a variegated floss that I got from Ink Circles, where Tracy had a variegated floss that didn't have the labeling on it anymore, so she wasn't sure what it was, and so she was dividing it up into small, kind of small little skeins of it, and then selling it. So I had picked that up, and I also decided that I would stitch over 1 on 32 count. So I'm having a number of kind of issues with this. Let me bring it up here. I don't know whether I like, now that I've actually got it on the fabric, I don't know that I like the Silks for You on this fabric. And then the unnamed floss, which may also be a silk, I knew that the purple in it was very close to the purple in the fabric, and let's see if this, it really does kind of disappear into the fabric, and stitching it over 1 is making it kind of difficult to see as I stitch. So I don't know. I am on the fence. I mean, it's like, oh, I've put in all these stitches. It would be a shame to frog it when I've done all that work. But also, in the scheme of things, it's just a small portion of the whole thing I was going to do. So I don't know. I am on the fence as to whether I frog this, pick other colors and do it on this fabric, do it on another fabric. There was actually a different fabric I had planned to use. I was going to use I think it's a 40 count hibiscus from Bestitch Me, and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll use that. And I think maybe I should have used that because everything would have stood out more. But then I saw this and was like, oh, I got this fabric, but I don't know, what I'll use it for. Maybe I can use it for this. So I don't know. I think this as it isn't working, but I'm also not super motivated at the moment to figure out how to make it work and to restart it. So that is just going to go into timeout for now while I work on other things, and I will at some point figure out what if anything to do with this. And now the last thing that I have worked on, which is my snake theme temperature chart, where this is so I can do a temperature chart with sort of featuring this design is based off of one of the snakes that I had, and doing this for next year, which is the year of the snake. And as I've mentioned previously, I have the design for kind of the snake, which is, kind of the chart area. I have that done, although there are errors. I'm finding errors in my pattern, and I've also changed the colors that I had specified in the pattern. But I'm pushing through to kind of get the snake portion done because I want to be able to start putting in the temperatures next year. But I have not chosen colors for the temperatures. I wanted to do both a kind of border and a legend for the colors, and I have not finished designing that. So I don't know when. So I'm pushing through with the snake portion, but I don't know when everything else is going to be done. I did have somebody ask me about this, so thank you for reaching out. And once I do have it done, I don't know what I'm going to do with the pattern. It's my first attempt at really designing something. I don't know that this is anything that's ready to be like actually released. It's something that to have people pay for. I don't know that I am at that point yet, but at least for myself, I want to see this through. So that is where things are at. I have put in, I did not make a note of the number of stitches that I put in today, but I am at approximately 29% of the snake portion of the pattern, not counting any of the sections for, the temperatures. But that's where things are at the moment. So slowly moving along. And I think I'm going to make a push in the remaining portion of this year to get more done on this. I guess I can't say for sure that I will manage to get the entire snake done by the end of the year, but at least I've got, I do have to put in more stuff in here, but the space for January, February, March, and April are there, so I can start filling in stuff as I go along. So we will see. Best laid plans when I was thinking about this earlier in the year and hoping to have everything all done by the end of this year. Did not happen, but what are you gonna do? All right, let me tuck this away, and then I do have additional cross stitch related notes. Let's see here. So, as far as kind of plans for next year with cross stitching, one of the things I would like to start is the heart sampler. The designer on that is Fergus Reed. I think the Etsy shop is Bad Vibes Only, I think. I'll have to find the info and put it up. That's a pattern I had bought ages ago, but just hadn't started it. I was looking back at it a couple weeks back and thinking, oh, maybe this is something I would want to start coming up. And I was trying to figure out whether I had stuff on hand to stitch it with or what. But I had been looking at it, and I think like the next day I got a message from a friend of mine, Tara, the one who introduced me to cross stitching by giving me a cross stitch kit the 20 some years ago that I finally worked on back in 2022, and she's also the one who did the piece of art that I have up there. She said, hey, I found this pattern on Etsy and thought you would like it. And so I said, hey, I actually have the pattern, and I was just looking at it the other day. So I thought I was taking that as a sign that should be something that I start next year. So I have, when I did sort of some end of year shopping, I have I put in an order with Bestitch Me, my first order for just having the stuff dyed for me, as opposed to just getting fabrics that were already ready to ship. So I put in an order for fabric, and fabric not only just for this, but a selection of stuff. I decided I wanted to do that as 46 count, and so that's this kind of batch of fabric that I ordered. I'm doing 46 count for, which is a little smaller than the 40 that I normally go with, but we will see. So I have that, which will be coming sometime next year. I don't remember, like February, March-ish. So down the road, I will have fabric where I will pick from that what I want to use for that pattern. And then I also placed an order with Silks for You because I had wanted to order some more stuff from them for quite a long time, but I'd been holding off, and then I did see something that they have kept their prices the same for a long time, but they're going to be having to raise the price on their stuff slightly. So I thought, well, that's a sign that I should go ahead and put in an order with them. So I have ordered some stuff from them, including silks that I'm hoping will work for that pattern. So that's something on the horizon for next year that I'm hoping to start. The other thing that I did was I did sign up for Stitch for Pride 2025. Obviously, I have not finished 2024 because I started that when the pattern went back on sale mid-year. That's when I was able to go ahead and purchase the pattern, and I have done a couple sections of that, which I've shown in previous videos, but I am still quite a bit behind and need to slowly work on that. I just haven't gotten back to it yet. So for 2025, I wanted to be signed up so that I'm ready to go, and hopefully, well, again, we'll see whether or not I keep up with it, but that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to try and do that one from Stash. I know that there were floss packs, and I thought the floss packs were an interesting thing. I can't remember the dyer off the top of my head, but they were going to do the colors sort of based off of colors that were kind of popular or had something to do with the time that each of the people that are kind of the design focus for each month, something connected with them. So I thought that was interesting, but in an effort to try and not be when I've got a bunch of stash around, I'm gonna try and pull from Stash for that one. And the kind of theme for 2025 is, I think, trans folks. So I am looking forward to stitching and learning on that next year. See, I know that the Jingle Ball was recently. I ended up not doing the Jingle Ball this year, and that was kind of for a number of reasons. First off was I was watching for any classes that I was particularly interested in, and it's a little bit of a double-edged sword there because the last year when I did it, I did sign up for some classes. I didn't get the kits for any of the classes I was interested in because they were all gone by the time I was able to sign up, because I both had issues with the website, and the time that the tickets go on sale, it does not work well for me. When they go on sale, I am still at work, and it is at a time of the day that I am typically out of the office on an errand. So trying to sign up and get a kit at that time, that's difficult for me to do. But the other thing was this year when I looked through the classes that were available, there just wasn't anything that really spoke to me. And so, well, I'll hold off on getting a ticket because there wasn't anything that immediately grabbed my attention. I had sort of thought I would still sign up anyway because the ticket's only like $10. But the reason I ended up not doing it was because I know myself, and if I had signed up, I would have gone through on the shopping and I would have bought a bunch of patterns that I didn't really need and wasn't ready to stitch anytime soon. And so as a for my bank account, I did not buy my $10 ticket, which would have led to many more dollars coming out of my pocket. So this year the Jingle Ball wasn't for me, but I'll look at it again next year and see if it is for me next year. Maybe it will be. I do really like the concept of having an online, sort of retreat, and I think that's a great idea. But for me this year, it just wasn't a fit. So the other thing that I did, I've been thinking about this for a while. This is now no more cross stitch, but onto other fiber related stuff. One of the things I have wanted to try for a long time is knitting socks. I don't know, I don't do a ton of knitting or crochet. I am more comfortable with crochet than I am with knitting, but I still don't do either one a lot. And so I thought, you know, I'd really like to learn how to do socks. And of course, the first thing is then you start looking at all the cool yarn that you could get that would be fun to make socks with. But I told myself, maybe at some point you can do that, but you have yarn on hand, so why don't you practice and try stuff out, because you know the first time you try and do anything, it's not going to be great. So why get the fancy yarn and make the socks and have them not being great when you can practice with stuff that you already have on hand, and then once you're more confident in your ability, then you can get the fancy stuff and make the nicer socks. So just in the last couple days, I pulled out, and this is gonna be hard to see because it's black, just some black sock yarn that I had, and I am learning to do magic loop. I have never done magic loop before, and it took me a number of times, but I finally kind of got this going. I'm doing it. I am not fully happy with how it's turning out. I'm getting kind of laddering at the edges, which from doing a little searching online, I understand that is an issue that you can have, and that it's related to tension, and because everybody's tension is different, you have to kind of fiddle around with your tension and figure out what works for you to make that not happen. So this was kind of the start of the cuff. I can't remember offhand which pattern. I'm using a free pattern that was on Ravelry that I'm sure I added to my library there like ages and ages ago. I'm barely on Ravelry these days. But what I think I'm going to do is and the pattern is for like a 2-color sock. What I may do is just keep stitching with this yarn and just kind of use this as practice, whether I keep going like this and try and figure out my issue with the laddering, or whether I actually follow along with the pattern and just try doing that sock in the one color. I think this will be my sacrificial sock, and see if I can get through one like this, and then maybe learn enough that this will be the single sacrificial sock, and then I will then start an actual pair with stuff that I more want to use, either from my stash, or maybe at that point I would be willing to buy some additional yarn. And these needles are probably, I know the pattern was saying to use like size 1 needles. I was going through, I don't actually have any size 1s. I think these are size 2s, fixed circulars, which I had again bought these needles. This is the first time I'm using these needles. I bought them ages ago, I think with the intent that, oh, this is the type of needle you're supposed to get to use for socks. But again, I will go through with this, and then maybe if I make it through and I'm ready to actually do a real pair of socks, then maybe I will look at picking up the other size of needles and going from there. But we'll see. Maybe after I get through this one, that will satisfy my desire for wanting to know about knitting socks, and I will decide it's not for me. So we will see. But that is my little start, my first attempt at magic loop, and we will see where it goes from here. I know, as I see, I have stuck a crochet hook in here. And I think I've said this in videos before, part of the reason why knitting scares me more than crochet. Well, one, I learned to crochet first, and then I started to learn knitting. With crochet, you don't have to really worry so much about your stitches just like falling out, like, you know, like dropping a stitch. That's not so much a concern. With knitting, I get so concerned about dropping a stitch and then having things start to come apart. And, you know you can go back and fix it, and I have some stuff that I've done. I've, done that, like, okay, I've dropped the stitches, but I can go in there and fix them, so I feel a little better now. But I still have, knitting still causes some terror. So that's where I am at with that endeavor, and we'll see where that goes, if it goes, because obviously I don't finish a ton of things. I start lots of things, so we'll see whether or not that gets finished. I think that is the end of the fiber arts portion of this, because I'm going to go on to books. So let me take a sip here, and then we'll get into books. Okay. I didn't bring my reading journal in with me because I'm actually behind on filling stuff out. I have been making notes of the books as I finish them, but I have not actually done any more spreads and writing down the my thoughts on the book. So behind on that, but let's go through what I have done since the last video. The first book that I did is, and again, these are all audiobooks I got from the library, was This Is How You Lose the Time War by Max Gladstone and Amal El-Motar. And it was not a long book. I had heard great things about it, and not a long book. It was enjoyable, and it was the sort of book that, having listened to it once, I think that this is a book I would consider getting a physical copy for myself and to reread it again, because I feel like on subsequent rereadings you would pick up more things about it. I only listened to the audiobook once. I did not go back through a second time, but it's a book that I think that has would have value in rereading, which is part of the reason that I have that on my list for maybe picking up a copy for myself eventually. And it is a story about two agents in a war across time who write letters to each other, and it's sort of a love story. And it's told in, you've got both kind of some descriptions of what's going on, as well as the letters themselves between the two agents who are known as Red and Blue. And yeah, that was a, one I had heard good things about, and glad that I went and took the time to go through. Next up was Bunny by Mona Awad. And this is a book that I had been looking forward to reading for a long time, because I had seen it mentioned a bunch. And also, it was mentioned a bunch, and people seemed to either love it or hate it. So I was curious to know what I was going to think. It was one that I had thought about, well, maybe I just get a copy for myself, because I had to wait a long time for my library hold to come through for the audiobook. But I'm glad I listened to the audiobook, because I enjoyed the narration of that one. And the book is a weird book. And I feel like I went into it knowing kind of very little about it, so I don't want to go into a bunch of detail here, because I think it's better if you just sort of go in and experience it. But it is about a and now I'm blanking on her name, and they say it multiple times. Is it Samantha Heather Mackey or something? The main character, she is in this writing program at I don't think it's like a the specialist, kind of writing program, if it's like a master's or something, but she is one of a very small group of students, and the other students, she is sort of an outsider because the other students are all this kind of close-knit group of friends who are the bunnies. They all call each other Bunny, and it's all kind of very, very odd and weird, and everything only gets more weird and odd as you go along. And I enjoyed it. I would say, is this my very favorite book ever? No, but I liked it, and it is one that I would like to get a copy for myself to read it again. Now, having gone through the book and gotten to the end, I want to go back through it. But I think that this is one. I'm glad glad I did the audiobook because I enjoyed that, but I think rereading it, actually reading a physical copy, would be a good thing. So that's not bad to have two books in a row where I would like to get the physical copies of. And this Bunny was a book where since I had been holding off on looking at anything, trying not to know a whole lot, as soon as I was done, then I went online and was searching for people's reviews and their takes as to what happened. And again, I don't want to say too much, but people have their theories on things as to what may really be going on, and I can understand and see where they're coming from, but I think it's more fun to kind of take things at face value. I will just say that, but I enjoyed it. Next up, which sort of like goes along, it was the next book that was available, or the audiobook through, and this was because I'm a part of the Witchy Stitchers Patreon. I've been on a number of people's Patreons. Some of them I'm not on anymore because I'm doing things with budgeting and deciding which ones I can stay with. But the Witchy Stitcher is one that I'm part of, and she had released a Patreon pattern that I haven't started yet, but I have the pattern through the Patreon of Bunnicula. And I thought, it's been a really, really long time since I read those books as a kid. Let me see what the library has. And so they had an audiobook that was the Bunnicula collection. That was the first 3 books in the Bunnicula series. So it was Bunnicula, Holiday Inn, and The Celery Stalks at Midnight, which were all books that I read as a kid. And I think all of those books may still be at my parents' house, tucked away somewhere. And so I had learned that the author has actually written a number of other books in the Bunnicula series, although I will say that the Bunnicula books are much more about the other characters, the main dog and cat, Chester and Howard, and then other characters that come in. And Bunnicula is more of a side character than a main character. But it was fun to listen to these again. I did, and I think these were some that I did listen to on a quicker speed to go through the end, because they're fun, but they're also kids' books, and so I was sort of ready to go through and have fun listening to them, but also I didn't need to delve deeply into them. Just a bit of nostalgia. So that was fun. The next book, I got this book because I had been listening to other people's, there are other folks on, I guess it's, BookTube. I have a couple people that I'm following, but normally I will, if there's a book that I'm interested in, I may search for that and then watch people's videos, or there's a couple people that I do watch, and if they mention a book that sounds interesting, I'll go and make note of that. So that's where I had heard about this book. And I went into it with some trepidation, and ultimately I see what the author was doing. I just don't think it was really a book. Wasn't really a book for me, and not necessarily I would. It's not a book that I would recommend to a ton of people, because this one obviously many trigger warnings. The book is called Tampa by Alyssa Nutting, and it is about it's about a horrible person. And I don't mind books about horrible people. Obviously, I love The Secret History. People in that are horrible. And what was the other book? In My Dreams, I Hold a Knife. That book that I had read, there's lots of horrible characters in that as well. The book wasn't my absolute favorite, but I still enjoyed it. So I'm happy to read books with horrible characters. This is a woman who only cares about herself. She is married, but is married to her husband more for, money than anything else. Her real interest lies in young boys, specifically 14-year-old boys, and so she becomes a teacher specifically so she can be around them and do illegal things with them. And I knew that the book was supposed to be about kind of the, double standards for things, like the things that she does and manages to get away with for quite a while. Because she is a beautiful woman, she is treated differently than if a man did these same things with a young girl. So I get that point of it, but yeah, I think for me, I forget at what point I got to in the book, and then I didn't want to DNF it. I had gotten so far, I wanted to get all the way through, but I did, like 1.25, 1.5, 1.75. I think I had it on like 2 times speed at some point because I wanted to get through it, but I determined it was not really a book for me. So I went through it. Not a book that I am looking to purchase, not a book I'm looking to revisit. Yeah, just that one wasn't one for me. The one that I am reading right now from the library was one where I don't know if it was like a New York Times or what thing that was mentioning, like something I had seen that a book was going to be coming out called Sister Snake. So that kind of perked up my interest because snake in the title. And so I checked on my library, asked to be alerted when it came out. So when the library got the audiobook, I snapped that up, and I think I'm about halfway through. It is, and I think that kind of maybe the very basis of the story is maybe in a Chinese folktale about snakes that are become human, but so it's about two snakes who they're not actually sisters, but they are two snakes of kind of different snake species. They meet each other, and then they find a way that they eventually become human, and so they they're like immortal, have been around for many years, and it's sort of about their lives currently. One sister lives in Singapore and is married to a man who is like the minister of education, and is kind of well to do, and has kind of found her place in the world. And the other sister is has been living in New York, is not doing as well, financially, doing various things to make ends meet. She had reached out to the sister in Singapore. In the past, she had asked her sister for money, and her sister had sort of her sister had bailed her out of things in the past, but then had sort of reached her point where, like, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. But a situation happens where she, goes to help her sister, and so things are sort of unfolding at this point. And I'm enjoying it so far. At this point, well, I still have about half the book to go. I don't know that this is going to be one that I will like to pick up an actual copy for myself, but I'm having fun going through it. So that is that one. And what I'll be reading next, because I have my hold came in from the library and I went ahead and snagged it. And next up is Will Prescribe You a Cat by Shio Ishida. And again, one where I haven't looked into it too much, other than apparently this is a book that I guess has been very popular in Japan, and then has obviously been translated into other languages. But I think the premise is that if you're having problems, you go and see somebody who listens to your problems and then gives you a cat based on what your issues are. And that sounded fun. So that is next up. As far as reading for 2025, I don't think I'm going to set any goals, because again, I don't want the reading to be a chore. I just want to keep reading and enjoying what I'm reading and not be trying to hit certain marks. At least at this point, that's not really what I'm looking for. One of the things that I might do, because it's been sort of the back of my head, and I've been going through audiobooks, what I might do is pick up some books that I have around here that and reread them. One of the things I've been wanting to reread is the Crystal Singer series by Anne McCaffrey. I think a number of years ago I pulled them back out and read through them again, and I'm sort of thinking like I'd like to do that again, because I remember them being fun. And hang on just a minute, because I think I need to adjust something with my camera battery here. Okay, the angle may have shifted a bit. I set up my camera to have it plugged into a battery pack, and it seemed like it was not pulling from there. So hopefully things keep going and it doesn't die on me. But getting back to the Crystal Singer series, it was one that I had enjoyed. It's been a few years since I've gone through it, so part of it curious to see how they hold up now a few years later. It's been a long time since I've reread other of Anne McCaffrey's books, and I'm sure that I either have more kind of tucked away either in my storage area or back at my parents' house. I remember I read a lot of her books as a kid, and again, I don't know how well they hold up now. But one thing I wanted to mention, because I always think of it when I think of Anne McCaffrey, is so Twilight. I have read the Twilight books years ago. I borrowed them from the library. I did not enjoy them. For me, it was kind of like a hate read. I know people are free to enjoy whatever they want. If you enjoy, Twilight, that's great. I did not enjoy the books. I think it was the second book in particular that I really hated. I'm sure that if I read them when I was a lot younger, I probably would have liked them. But reading them as an adult, there was lots of things that I couldn't just kind of set it aside and ignore it. It bothered me a lot. But the whole and these books have been out so long. Everybody this already, but the whole towards the end, the imprinting on the baby, that yeah, both I didn't like that, and also it made me think of there's the I don't remember what the name of what the name itself of the series of Anne McCaffrey's books. It's the one that begins with the Rowan and then Damia and other stuff. Those books I haven't reread in a long time. I enjoyed them when I read them, but I realized that there are things in it that I think I would not reading them now would not be so great. And in those books, there is something very, very similar to that whole imprinting on the baby thing. And so I'm like, boy, as awful as this is not the first time I've come across it. So yeah, that's just something that I think of whenever I think of that whole situation. But the Crystal Singer books I remember enjoying, and so I would sort of like to revisit that and see what I think now. So maybe that for next year. Okay, I do have one other thing that I wanted to mention, or rather, I have two other things that I want to mention. Let me take a sip of tea. What I wanted to mention here was some things that are not related to cross stitch or books in any way, but there are things that I enjoy and other people might enjoy. So I thought I would share them. And I will link to these things below. The first thing I wanted to mention was the YouTube channel of Rajiv Surendra. And I think what most people know him for is that he was in the movie Mean Girls. Not the recent one, which I haven't seen, but the original Mean Girls. And it's been long enough since I've seen that movie that I didn't immediately remember that he was in it. But how I found him was not through his own channel, but on a video that he did on the HGTV channel. And it was something that just kind of popped up on my, kind of recommended videos. I think because at the time I was searching for things related to harps. Someday, for years I have thought that someday I would like to get a harp and learn how to play. However, harps are large and expensive, and I know for myself that the chances that I will really stick with it are not necessarily that high. And also for things like that, I mean, not that I keep my nails particularly long, but as somebody who used to be a nail biter and had no nails for many years, my nails as I have them now, I'm happy with that. And the having to keep my nails really short to play an instrument like that, that's also something I'm not quite ready to do just yet. But because that's sort of a someday dream now, and then I go down the rabbit hole and watch things about harps. And this video on HGTV had him visiting the Lion and Healy harp factory. And so he was going on a tour there, going around, and I really liked kind of the way he was in this video and the questions that he was asking folks and just how respectful he was as to everybody. And I'm like, I want to watch more videos with this guy in it. And I remember one part where he was talking to one of the people who was doing carving on the harps and was looking at the tools that he was using, and asked, like, is it okay if I hold these tools, and finding out that the guy whose tools they were actually tools that had belonged to his father and were passed down to him, and he thought that was great. And so yeah, I really enjoyed that his kind of genuine interest in everything and the questions. It was great. And so then that led to me watching his channel, and he's somebody who he tries a lot of different things and is interested in all sorts of stuff. Like he's interested in calligraphy, and he spins wool, and he makes candles, and he does this stuff. So I find his channel very, very enjoyable. So I thought I would share it in case you would like to check it out as well. So again, Rajiv Surendra, and I will link to it in the description. The next thing that I wanted to mention is an organization where I haven't I haven't delved super into the beginnings of this, so I don't know if there's anything problematic about how it started or that, because this is the Sheldrick Trust, and it has to do with elephants in Africa. And I know that whenever I think of like charities and it's set up, particularly in a country like Africa, as I get worried about if it's people coming in from the outside starting these things and how they work with the local folks there. So I don't know the whole story, but from what I've seen, I like what I've seen so far. So this is I think that they have a number of locations, and if elephants are orphaned, like due to the moms dying during drought or being killed by poachers or getting like separated, there's things that can happen. And so if there's a baby elephant where it's clear that they are on their own and they're not going to make it, if somebody doesn't help them, they go and bring the baby to one of their kind of like orphanage units where they have folks who are keepers. And from what I've seen on there, it seems like it's a lot of local folks that are there, local to the country, who are the ones doing this. So it's not a bunch of, I'm not it doesn't seem to be overwhelmingly white folks in Africa doing this, but there are keepers who kind of watch over and spend time with the babies. And so they're out and about during the day, but they're there to feed them milk, to make sure that they're fed. They bring them inside into these kind of stables in the evening, so they're protected and keep them warm and all this. But as the elephants grow up, they're then moved to other units where they can start to reintegrate into the wild. And so the elephants sort of decide for themselves when they're ready to go fully into the wild and not be coming back every day. It's sort of up to them, which I like. And the other thing is that once the orphans leave and go out into the wild, the females, once they have babies, they will either come back to give birth, or after they've given birth, they will come back to show off their babies. And the other things that they do are they have kind of folks that will go out and do kind of like aerial surveying to keep an eye out for again, mostly elephants, but there are other animals that they take in from time to time, like they have some rhinos or things like that. But for the wild elephants, if they see ones that are injured, because sometimes they'll come across ones that have been injured in some way, either due to poachers or because things happen with conflict between humans and elephants for various reasons. But they have kind of a mobile team that will go out and they can sedate an elephant, get in there quickly, get out, like a poison arrow or something, and, do what they can do kind of a brief amount of time to, remove that, clean out the wound, and then, bring them out from the sedation so that they can go back about their life in the wild with a better chance of doing things. There also seem to be issues where in the drier seasons, sometimes in trying to get water, they will fall into a well, and they'll work to get the elephants out. There was something that I just saw them post recently, and I came across them on, it was, I think, a suggested thing on Instagram, which is where I started kind of following. But they seem to do things both to, it's the orphaned elephants or other other animals, as well as trying to provide, some medical assistance to animals there in the wild, and also trying to do things to kind of reduce conflict between animals and people. Because the one that I had seen earlier today, which I think was from something earlier this year, they mentioned, and I forget the exact location, but there was some place where like a barrier had been put up to try to, keep elephants on one side of it so that there would be less conflict with humans and people, which they said would, overall a good thing. However, when it was put up, there was a small family of elephants, I think a mom and her older and younger babies were on kind of the wrong side of the wall. And apparently many times they had tried to sort of convince them to go in a direction that would put them on the other side, but they, didn't go. So finally reached a point where they, tranquilized them and were in the process of moving them to get them on the right side of the fence, where both they would be safer and not come into conflict. Because obviously you have to keep in mind both the trying to protect the animals, but keeping in mind the needs of the people as well. So and I'll put a link down there in the description for more information on that. And yeah, those were two things that both when I come across, when I watch Rajiv's content or see, the elephants, those are both things that bring a smile to my face. So I thought that I would share those, since a lot of times there are things that are got a lot of not happy things. So finding the fun things is always good. So I hope that when people are watching this, they either had or will have good holiday celebrations this time of year. For me, I'm not quite sure what my holidays are going to look like. I suspect they're going to be very small, because it's only very small family gatherings that we're doing these days, because I don't have a large extended family. And then but in the more extended portion of stuff, there are folks that I don't know personally, but in-laws of family members are having some health issues, and so question of who all will be attending the celebration is a little up in the air. So but that's sort of how life goes, and yeah, we will make the best of it. So that is all that I have for this video. I was thinking about that my January video, I don't know whether I'm going to do a whip parade for my January video, or have that be a separate video, or how exactly it's going to work. Or maybe I don't do one and we'll just wait until mid-year. I'm not sure yet. It's up in the air. But my next video will be in January, so look for that then. I will keep stitching in the meantime. If you are watching and made it all the way through to the end, thank you very much. I appreciate you being here. And as I said, happy holidays to everyone. All right. Thanks so much. Bye.